Welcome back. It is the Vegas Take Shapiro. Chris Wynn also joining us in studio. Glad you could be here with us. In just a few minutes here, we'll be joined by Michael Avenatti. Wanted to just share this sad breaking news with all of you, especially those of you that live here in Las Vegas. You've probably heard of this name before. Former UNLV baseball coach Tim Chambers has sadly passed away at the age of 54. We know he has suffered some demons with drinking issues. In fact, that's why he lost his job. He had a bunch of DUIs and, really young age. So really sad. We'll continue to monitor this story. But former UNLV baseball coach at the age of 54, sadly, Tim Chambers has passed away. We don't know the details as to why he passed away. Whenever we get that information, we will share that all with you. We were talking, of course, about a positive note that a ISIS leader, in this case, the leader that was killed is somebody that the U.S. has been trying to get for a very, very, very long time. And it's a great story that he's no longer on the face of the earth. He's dead. It's a good story. And thank God for the brave men and women who executed that mission. And he's no longer able to lead ISIS. Now, does that mean ISIS is depleted? No. But this is certainly a positive story. It's a good story. But we're also talking about the way that Donald Trump handled the press conference over the weekend. He's the one who brought up Osama bin Laden. He's the one who diminished the killing of Osama bin Laden and what it meant to the world and to the United States. So it's sad, and we'll take a few phone calls on this. Why don't we start off with going to Stacy, the number to call, 257-5396. Stacy, go ahead. Stacy, are you there? Okay, I think we lost Stacy. 257-5396 is the number to call in if you want to be a part of the program. Let's go to Steven. Steven, you're next on the Vegas Take. Steven, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Steven. What's on your mind?
Is JD there?
Yeah, I'm here, Steven.
Yeah, oh, great. I'm sorry. I went ahead and called after I heard Brady's call. I just remember one thing about it. When they started demonizing this terrible subversive organization called ISIS, if you'll check the facts, folks, we had no conflict with them for a while. And then I heard a nationally, I don't know, he's a voice on a nationally program. I didn't know the man, don't know him now. He explained that we couldn't go to war with him yet because Obama and Hillary had to ship the money over there and recruit the organization. Then they wanted our United States aircraft to bomb our own men. So
Wait, okay, Stephen, hang on. I'm confused.
Are you making the case that ISIS is not a bad organization or it doesn't have the best interest of the United States? I don't understand what
Obama and Hillary shipped the money over there and recruited the organization. But they had the demonization program going immediately.
Okay. So let me ask you a question.
He suggests
they care about fear and control.
Okay, Stephen, hold on, Chris. Stephen. Okay, Stephen, if we're going to have a conversation, you have to listen to what we say also. I listened to what you said.
Okay, I'm willing to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sometimes it takes me a complete sentence.
Okay, well, I listened to what you said. And we're talking today about this terrorist that was killed, this ISIS terrorist. I'm not going to get in the weeds with you about Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton.
What weeds?
Okay.
They're treasonous acts,
hold on,
sir.
Stephen, there is no proof to back up your claim. We're going to focus on what.
There's a lot of proof.
All right, listen, I'm not going to sit here and talk to you about Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton.
I'll let
okay?
You finish,
okay.
But quit with the lies.
What did I? Okay.
Well, the lies.
Hold on, it's Chris.
So
hang
your
on.
contention. Let me say this one real quick. Your contention is that Hillary and Barack Obama are the founders of ISIS. Is that what you're trying to say?
That's what the
there you go.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right, Stephen. That's all right. Well, that's all right, Stephen. That's a very okay. All right. Let me respond, Stephen. That's a very credible thing that you think. All right. So you just said I lie. Is that what you said?
I said I haven't heard anyone refute what the allegation except for you.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about, Stephen. How can I refute something that...
You're an intelligence expert, right, Brian?
I'm a logical human being that wouldn't say that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton created ISIS.
People to fight our men logical?
All right. We're talking about what transpired over the weekend. I understand you want to focus on Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. The reason why I'm talking about what happened over the weekend, because, number one, it's a good thing. It's a positive thing. And then Donald Trump starts bringing up Osama bin Laden and diminishes the killing of Osama bin Laden. Do you not understand that, Stephen?
I saw it on the press. Osama
Oh
bin
my
Laden
God! I
was
can't have
dead
I can't have a conversation with you. All you want to do is talk about Barack
And correct
Obama.
me if I'm wrong, right,
Can't do
Brian?
it.
But he started the call off by trying to
No,
make an assumption that the United States and ISIS were somehow friendly back in the day.
He's suggesting
that's amazing.
that ISIS was formed from funding given to them by the United States. And that it wasn't an issue until Obama's presidency, and it wasn't a big enough issue for anyone to get taken care of.
Absolutely absurd.
Yes.
Terrorism across the world has always been an issue for the United States, whether it was a direct threat to the United States or not. We have always supported other countries across the world when it comes to terrorism. I don't understand that phone call. Maybe the guy that's on the line with us right now can make a little bit of sense of this. My blood's boiling. Joining us right now on the line is attorney Michael Avenatti. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
What's up, Michael?
Gentlemen, good morning. How are you guys?
I'm doing good,
well.
Michael. Michael, we're talking about the president's press conference over the weekend. As you know, this ISIS leader was killed. This is a good story for the country. It's a good story for the world. But my specific take on this, Michael, is that he's tried to diminish the killing of Osama bin Laden. He brings up Barack Obama. Then he falsely claims in his 2000 book that he demanded the killing of Osama bin Laden, which is a lie. He tried to diminish the killing of Osama bin Laden, okay, a guy who's responsible for the biggest terrorist attack in the history of this country. And I said to myself, he took something that should have been a really good story and just turned it on himself and made it all about Donald Trump again. Would you agree with that?
Well, I would agree 100%. I mean, this is a guy who he just can't take the win. You know, it's like in sports when you score a touchdown. I mean, act like you've been there before. This should have been an understated press conference. It clearly was a big win for America, a big win really for the world, for anyone that values safety and the rule of law. And to turn around and make it all about him and start comparing which killing was more important or which killing was more significant in the fight against terrorism is ridiculous. I mean, this guy he cannot take a win. I've never seen anything quite like it. It was the same thing when he was elected president of the United States. I thought that would be a big enough ego stroke for this guy, but it clearly was not.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't know how to win properly. He doesn't act like he's been there before, which is very surprising considering where he comes from. That being said, do you have any issue with how the Washington Post reported this terrorist that was murdered as an austere religious scholar?
Yeah, I thought it was ridiculous. I think it's one of the most ridiculous headlines I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, he should have been reported for what he is or what he was, which is a terrorist, an absolute threat to the world and to the United States. I mean, I thought the headline was. I don't know what moron drafted that headline, but they should be fired.
Yeah, why do you think that they drafted it that way or they headlined it that way?
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to assign the belief that the headline writer, has it out for Trump and therefore was trying to sway opinion. I mean, is that possible? Sure, it's possible. I don't know enough about what happened, but it's hard to imagine how that headline came to be because it makes absolutely no sense, and I thought it was an absolute joke.
All right, I'll tell you what I want to do, Michael, because we have a lot of people on hold. People that want to make some comments, perhaps ask you some questions. Why don't we take some phone calls now? Attorney Michael Avenatti on the line. The number to call in is 257-5396. Again, that number is 702-257-5396. Why don't we start off with Brian this time around? Brian, you are on with attorney Michael Avenatti. Go ahead. Well, okay, that was our best call of the day so far. 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Ron. Ron, you're on with Michael Avenatti. Go ahead.
What's up, Ron?
Hey, Brian. No offense. It's just a question with you. The only thing that really bothered me was, Obama had a funeral for I guess it was out of respect for bin Laden, and that kind of insulted me a little bit.
He didn't have a funeral. No, he didn't have a funeral. The president of the United States didn't have a funeral for him. They were observing Muslim traditions, right? That's what the reason behind everything, as far as him being, basically, sprayed out into the sea, right?
Go ahead, Ron. What's your question? Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to call in and say hello. You're my exact opposite, but I like you because you've made some points.
All right. I appreciate that.
Points, and I've checked into them, and I'd have to agree with you.
All right, Ron. I appreciate that.
No. When you talk to Stretch again, tell him again, give him an okay, man. That brother is awesome. There's a couple things I disagreed with, but he's a minister. I respect him. And
well, Ron, we appreciate you calling in, and you're not always going to agree with everything we say on this show, but as long as we're respectful to one another, that's fine. But if you say something, that is ridiculous, and Michael, I'm going to go back to you here because we've had several callers that have called in that have said that Barack Obama created ISIS, right, Chris? We've had other callers that have called in that say Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama were literally the creators of ISIS, and they have let terrorists go. What do you make, Michael, of some of these people on the right that are making these claims?
Well, I don't know why it always goes back to Barack Obama. No matter what happens in society, no matter what happens in politics, it immediately reverts back to Barack Obama. Like somehow everything Barack Obama did is now free game. I mean, times change, things change. As it relates to the alleged funeral for Osama bin Laden, as I recall, his body was disposed of at sea, at least in somewhat of a respectful manner, not because we thought he deserved the respect, because he certainly didn't, but I think that was largely done so as to not incite additional terrorist activity and terrorists generally. I think that's why it was done. I think that's the only reason.
I agree.
It was done, as opposed to, what just transpired in some of the rhetoric around it, the killing over the weekend. That could prove to be problematic. And let me also say this: anybody that thinks that ISIS is now eliminated because of what just happened is an absolute fool. It wasn't too long ago that we had thousands of ISIS sympathizers and at least 100 hardened terrorists of ISIS escaped from various facilities, prisons in Syria because of the conduct of Donald Trump. So, this is almost like George Bush on the deck of the aircraft carrier, the mission accomplished. ISIS is not dead by any stretch of the imagination.
Sadly, I agree with you.
If we start taking that mentality, that's going to be very problematic, and it's going to put Americans at risk.
I agree 100%. Joining us on the line right now, it's attorney Michael Avenatti. We're taking your phone calls at 257-5396. Let's go to David. David, you're next. You're on with Michael. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's hard to take this serious when you guys are using Michael Avenatti as, your character reference. I mean, this guy's been proven
David,
time to be a liar and an abuser.
David,
he's your number one go-to guy.
David. What is Michael's on the line and he could defend himself.
Yeah.
What has Michael Avenatti been convicted of?
What has Donald Trump been convicted
Answer the
of?
question. Answer the
what
question.
Has Donald Trump been convicted of?
I like it how you like to change the topic when I ask you a question. Answer the question.
You changed the topic.
What has Michael Avenatti been convicted of? David, goodbye. Have a nice day. Sorry about that, Michael. We do get callers like that from time to time. 257.
Hey, let me just say this, guys.
Yeah.
Let me say this. If I'm ever elected to the highest office of the land, if I'm ever elected president of the United States, people can feel free to criticize me to the same degree, if not more so, than I criticize Donald Trump. Until that day, stick it.
I like it. 257-5396 is the number to call. Attorney Michael Avenatti joining us on the line. Michael, what did you make? I wanted to ask you quickly, what did you make of the World Series? Donald Trump booed, people saying lock him up. There were signs right behind home plate. I believe it was your friend Tom Arnold, the actor Tom Arnold, who bought some seats for some war veterans behind home plate that were holding up a sign that said Veterans for Impeachment. What do you make of that?
Well, I thought it was great. I thought it was absolutely fabulous. I mean, look, this is America. People can go to his rallies and they can cheer him loudly when he leads lock her up chants against Hillary Rodham Clinton and others and engages in some of his rhetoric. And guess what? When people go to the World Series in Washington, D.C., and his appearance is announced, they can boo him loudly and they can chant, lock him up. This guy deserves every piece of it, and I enjoyed watching him having to eat it, and I hope he has to eat similar rhetoric and similar conduct as we march forward through 2020. And let me say this to the Democrats out there that don't like it and that think it's over the top, and to Joe Scarborough and Mika, tough shit. I mean, this is the 2020 election. We got our republic at stake. We cannot afford another 4 years of this. If you think
that you're going to defeat Donald Trump by going high while he goes low, you're an absolute fool. And I can't believe that Joe Scarborough and Mika, who I know, would actually go on television today and criticize people for conducting themselves in that way. You know what? If Donald Trump wants to be respected, if he wants to be treated like most presidents, then he should start acting like most presidents. This is a guy that has demeaned the office of the presidency of the United States. He's brought disrespect upon the United States from around the world. He's the most divisive president in the history of the United States. He does not deserve our respect. I'm sorry. You want my respect, you can earn it.
So speaking of the 2020 election, you've been pretty supportive of Joe Biden. You actually suggested that he do one-on-one interviews. Well, he did one with 60 Minutes. And a lot of people, especially on social media, think he did a really good job. Talk to me about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, a number of weeks ago, I suggested that he do more one-on-one interviews, as opposed to, these group press gaggles, et cetera, just because I think one-on-one he's incredibly effective. I think that's his wheelhouse. And I think he should continue to do those interviews around the country. I mean, if I was running his campaign, he'd be doing them morning, noon, and night, local stations, national stations, and the like. And I thought that interview in 60 Minutes, I thought it was an absolute home run. I think he showed why he should be the next president of the United States, and I think that he showed why and how he could take on Donald Trump. I was very encouraged by it. I continue to believe that he is the guy as it relates to that matchup, as it relates to who's in the race right now in the key states. I think he needs to be the nominee, and I think if the Democrats nominate anyone other than him, it's going to be a significant mistake.
And I think it goes along with your viewpoint, Michael, with respect to Joe Biden and a matchup with Donald Trump, because Joe Biden, yes, seems like that guy out of all the candidates that can be in your face, right? He's the guy that's going to get down into the dirt with Donald Trump at times. Look, it's not about disrespect. It's just about being able to counter what Donald Trump brings to the table. And I think that's why Joe Biden can be it can be that candidate that can go down that road with him.
Well, I agree 100%. I think it also, it's really about who can go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump and get down in the gutter and trade shots. Who is seen as a moderate that can appeal to voters in those key states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Florida, and who is not seen as a drastic change from Donald Trump. Look, I know a lot of people on my side of the aisle want a very progressive candidate. They want to turn policy upside down. They really want to shake things up. And I respect that. And I happen to agree with a number of them. But that's not this election. That's now is not the time for a revolution, especially when you have a decent economy. I don't see voters in some of those key states making such a drastic change from Donald Trump. The Democrats need to figure out how to win. And if you don't win, you can't govern.
And I do like that comment about respect, by the way. I had an immediate flashback to The Sopranos with Tony Soprano and Richie Aprile, where Tony Soprano looks at him and says, "Those who want respect, give respect."
That's one of my favorite
and that's
episodes.
Exactly
there you
what
go.
I thought of.
If you're joining us right now on the line, it is attorney Michael Avenatti. If you have a question or comment, give us a call, 702-257-5396. Let's go to Chuck. Chuck, you're on with Michael. Go ahead.
Yeah, Michael, hey, I got one comment on what's the name? Benghazi?
Yes,
and
correct.
One on Michael Bromwich.
Yeah, go ahead.
Benghazi. I think Trump is hurt because I guess when he killed bin Laden, Trump called and congratulated him, and then
That's a good
Obama
point.
didn't reciprocate. And then I got a question on McCabe. Do you know what's going on with McCabe?
What about it?
Michael Bromwich is one of his attorneys, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll ask Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
And then he was one of the attorneys for Blasey Ford, and this guy's a Clintonite. I just wonder what his take on it is and where we're at with the McCabe.
Go ahead, Michael.
That's a good question. In fact, I was thinking about that last week. I don't know exactly what the status of McCabe's potential criminal prosecution is. I know there for a while it was rumored that they were having a difficult time. Prosecutors were having a difficult time with the grand jury indicting McCabe. I don't know if that was accurate or not, but if it was accurate, that's highly unusual because normally you can get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich. Frankly, there's a famous quote out in New York along those lines, and it happens to be true. So I don't know what the status of that is. No one's really spoken about it in some time. I don't know if perhaps it died on the vine or not.
Mm-hmm.
But, going back to Donald Trump, I firmly believe, gentlemen, that if Donald Trump would have deleted his Twitter account the day after he was elected, that his approval rating right now would be 55%. And he would be reelected president of the United States in 2020.
If not higher.
I firmly believe that if he would have deleted his Twitter account, and I'll add a second caveat, and had a decent press secretary and not felt the need for him to be out in front and for him to try to control things and be the center of attention all the time, this wouldn't even be close. With a decent economy, this thing would be over. He'd be reelected. But he can't help himself. The one thing that this guy has to do in order to be reelected, he can't bring himself to do it, and that is not be the center of attention.
That's true.
But Michael, isn't it ifs and buts for candies and nuts?
Very valid point. I think
that's what's so ironic.
Yeah, it
What's
is.
so ironic about this. The one thing, if I was advising him today, I would tell him, delete your Twitter account, stay off Twitter, do not do informal press gaggles, keep your mouth shut, and you got a decent shot. Even at this point, he can still pull it off, but he can't do it.
And what do you think? What do you think he would say to you if you said that to him?
No, he'd say, I'm going to do it my way, my instincts. I know best. Blah blah blah. But
you're
if this
fired.
guy would just shut up, he'd be okay. But he can't shut up.
That's true.
But Michael, isn't this just a classic case of you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, right? I mean, it's a done deal. The ship has sailed.
Well, you mean as it relates to 2020?
Yeah.
No, as it relates to Donald Trump, deleting his Twitter account. Ifs and buts for candies and nuts. What a Merry Christmas we'd all have, right? I mean, it's great to think about, but it's something that never happened and, of course, never will.
Well, although people have very short memories. I mean, the election, you got to remember, the election is 13 months from now,
yeah.
Right? And, I still think that if he all of a sudden woke up and had an epiphany, I think this election would be a lot closer than it otherwise might. But, this is all academic because he's not capable of doing what he really needs to do in order to win.
All right, Michael, here's what I want to do. Stick around. We want you back coming up on the other side of the break. I want to ask you questions, the latest on the impeachment inquiry. What do you think of these Republicans storming a hearing? What do you make of that, bringing their cell phones in there? Plenty more to get to with attorney Michael Avenatti, so we'll take a quick break. And, of course, we will take your phone calls. If you have a question or comment for Michael, that number to call in is 702-257-5396. Again, that number is 257-5396. We do have a few phone lines open if you'd like to call in with attorney Michael Avenatti. We will take a quick break, and we will be back right after this. You are listening to The Vegas Take right here. Sharp and Shapiro, Chris Wynn joining us in studio on a Monday as well. This is The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is The Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is Sharp and Shapiro, The Vegas Take, with Chris Wynn in studio on a Monday, rolling out hour number 2, baby. Attorney Michael Avenatti joining us on the line, and we have a lot to get to, a lot to go over for the remainder of the show. But, Michael, we want to start by asking you a little bit about this because, as you know, Katie Hill has just stepped down, and these topless pictures have come out. Apparently she's had some quote-unquote inappropriate relationships with some of her staffers. What do you make of this story? Do you think she should have stepped down? I actually feel sorry for her.
Well, I feel sorry for her as well. I mean, if she's stepping down to avoid disclosure or continued press reports relating to these naked pictures, then I think it's an absolute shame that she's stepping down because she's basically had to give in to people that are engaged in likely illegal conduct and disseminating these pictures in an attempt to smear her and embarrass her. Now, if she'd stepped down because there's financial improprieties or other conduct relating to her inappropriate relationships with people that worked for her, that's a different analysis in my view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But those facts haven't been disclosed. She's reported that
this is the result of an abusive husband. She's going through a difficult divorce, from what I understand. And a lot of this information, from what I've heard, is being leaked to the press by her husband and then passed around by GOP operatives that are trying to use it for political gain. And if that's the case, it's entirely inappropriate, and I hope these people are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law under California law and other laws, and they should be held liable because, people should not have their private pictures disseminated for, the world to see. I don't care who you are.
Michael, considering our, current media climate and the way things are, in the world today when it comes to, access and are you surprised that this is not something that hasn't raised its head before, given, we have so many people in the political realm that, have exposure on social media. And it seems to me that this would be something that, unfortunately could become commonplace.
Well, I think it's interesting you raise that. I think it is going to become more commonplace, and here's why. I think it's a generational issue. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's in her, early 30s. I'm in my late 40s, for instance. I think that people that are younger in their 30s, 20s, et cetera, they're more used to taking pictures of everything. I mean, mm-hmm. they're constantly posing for selfies. Or
I can attest to that.
They're constantly taking pictures of everything. I think probably the use or percentage of individuals that are taking video and photographs of a sexually explicit nature of them with their boyfriend or girlfriend is probably significantly higher. I don't know this for a fact, but my guess would be that it's significantly higher among people in their 20s, for instance, as opposed to people in their 40s and 50s right now. It's just a cultural thing. It's how they've grown up. And I think that because of that, this is going to become much more prominent and much more likely. And, here's the other thing that a lot of people don't talk about, but this is a fact. Video editing and technology and digital editing has become so good that basically it's going to become impossible. If it's not impossible today, it's going to become impossible in the next 12 to 18 months to determine whether a video has actually been edited or not. I know a year ago when I was thinking about running, I met with some security experts from literally around the world, and they showed me some very disturbing technology where, the Russians have the ability right now to doctor video and disseminate video, and you cannot tell that it's actually not the person that is claimed in the video.
Wow.
That's how good it is. That's how good it has gotten. And so imagine the disinformation that could result from from a video being released of a particular politician, and it's claimed that he or she is in a particular compromising position, and in reality, it's not that politician. And then the politician's going to be left clamoring that it's not him or her. I mean, imagine what that's going to look like.
Or say there's some type of shooting is replicated, or some type of terrible event is actually not real, but it's construed as real and released to the media as real, and it creates a massive uproar. So this sounds like revenge porn to me, which is a big deal. Very important question here. Do you think that Tucker Carlson would like to get a hold of this video and put it in his porn vault?
I would not even begin to guess the depravity that exists within Tucker's porn vault, other than to say that we know that it exists. I mean, this is a guy, he likes to use the word porn more than anybody I've ever met in my entire life. And so I'm confident that vault is a very deep vault.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you on that one. If you're just joining us, attorney Michael Avenatti. Okay, Michael, let's talk about some of the news of the course of the last week. Let's start with today. A Bolton aide apparently has thrown some new hurdles in the Democrats' plan. His name is Charles Cooperman, and he defied a subpoena earlier this morning, failing to appear before the House impeachment investigators. I tend to think that this sort of stuff is going to continue throughout the next several weeks or so as Democrats continue to investigate in this impeachment inquiry. What do you make of this latest hurdle that the Democrats are going to have to overcome?
Well, I think this thing's going to be tossed out in short order, and it's nothing more than a delay tactic. And I agree with you that we're going to continue to see this. That's the name of the game on the Republican side right now, is to delay and obstruct at each and every turn and drag this thing out as long as possible. And with the hope that the closer you get to the election, the more people just say, you know what, we should just let voters decide at the ballot box and it really feeds into the overall plan of Trump in the White House.
So what did you make of these Republicans storming the hearing last week? I mean, to me and to many others, I think it just looked as though a ridiculous PR stunt, right? They're just storming into the hearing while a quarter of those people or a fourth of those people that were in there were allowed to be in there just without their cell phones. What do you make of these people like Matt Gaetz, and these people that just they seem to want to continue to do these PR stunts? And they said if Democrats continue with their ways, Gaetz said, who knows what we'll do next? Gaetz making himself to be out this real tough guy. What do you make of some of these Republicans and these antics that they've been doing over the course of the last few weeks?
Well, I think it's nothing more than a stunt. I mean, 15 of the individuals already had access to everything in the SCIF. Another 40 or another 30 members have access to the information that's being obtained privately right now. It's amazing to hear these Republicans be so outraged by the way that this is being handled, and it's being handled behind closed doors, and it should all be handled out in the open. Evidently, they have no idea how grand juries conduct their business around the United States. Grand juries hear evidence and issue indictments in private. In fact, almost every grand jury that I know of is entirely private. Very few allow you to even have an attorney present when witnesses are called.
Mm-hmm.
So they evidently don't have a problem with the grand jury system, but they have a problem with the system that's being used at this point, which, by the way, is the same system that was used in connection with the Clinton impeachment. So,
right.
I think you're going to continue to see things like this because they're designed to further the message, and they're designed as stunts, and they're designed to get media attention, and they accomplish that goal.
Let's talk a little bit about the comments that Judge Napolitano made on Fox News. I have tremendous respect for him. I think he does a great job on Fox News. I think he is one of the few people on Fox News that is actually fair and balanced. And when asked about the inquiry laws and all the laws that are put in the books, his statement was basically, well, wait a second, the Republicans put these laws on the books. So if they have a problem with it, well, they should have had a problem with it when they put the laws into place, right, Michael? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for him as well, and I've conversed with him on a number of occasions, and I think he's very intelligent. I don't agree with him all the time, but I agree with him a lot of the time. And I think he's going to be great on Shepard Smith's show.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what happened. What do you?
Because I think that's what's going to happen. I would be surprised if he's still at Fox within the next. Let's say after 60 or 90 days.
What did you make of that, Michael, by the way? What did you make of Shepard Smith? Do you think he actually got the boot? Or do you actually think that this was one of those situations where he was tired of all the BS over there and he said, you know what, I'm going to take a break. I've been here for a long time and eventually I'll move on and work somewhere else. What do you think actually happened with that Shepard Smith situation?
Well, I think it was probably a mutual decision. I think that he'd kind of reached a breaking point, and they'd kind of reached a breaking point with him because he wasn't willing to toe the company line and basically stay on the bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it probably was a situation that was becoming untenable, and neither party wanted to maintain the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand that there was a negotiated exit because Jeff Zucker made comments in the interview, I think it was last Thursday or Friday, that spoke about the fact that he would be willing to speak with Shepard Smith and hire him, but that he understands there's a non-compete provision in his agreement. So something tells me there was a negotiated settlement, a walk away between Shepard Smith and Fox that probably takes him out of the mix for 12 months at a minimum and likely 18 or 24 months.
Sure. Non-compete, but he's very talented and he's very good at what he does. I think we all could agree on that. He'll be on somewhere sometime soon after that non-compete agreement expires. I'm sure there's no question about that. If you're just joining us, attorney Michael Avenatti on the line. We'll take your phone calls again right now, 257-5396. Again, that number to call if you have a question or comment for Michael, 702-257-5396. Let's go to Linda. Linda, thanks for calling in. You're on with Michael. Go ahead.
What's up, Linda?
Hi, Michael. I just want to ask you a question. A little bit ago, you said if Trump would got rid of his Twitter account and so on, you thought he would have maybe a 55% approval rating. So my question to you is, by you saying that, are you saying that you think Trump's doing a good job?
No, I don't believe he's doing a good job at all. I think he's disgraced the office, and I think he's an absolute pathetic president, and he's an embarrassment to the United States. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying, though, is that
I think that his approval rating would be significantly higher if he would stay off social media and if he would have more of a controlled approach to dealing with the press and the media. And the reason why I think his approval rating would be above 50% is if you look at the economy, which is a significant driver of people's beliefs as to the competency and the job that the president is doing, the economy is in many ways buzzing along. Now, obviously, I don't think that it is inured to the benefit of a lot of people in American society, but it's highly unusual to have an economy doing this well and have a president's approval rating so low. I mean, it's almost unheard of, frankly. You know, if you look at George Bush, for instance, way back when in 1991, right after the Gulf War, a lot of people forget this. George Bush's approval rating in October and November of 1991 was 81%. It was off the chart. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of Democrats did not enter the presidential race in 1992 and thought it was a fool's errand. Well, as we know, Bill Clinton did enter the race, had a relatively smooth primary process, and by the time that Clinton was elected in November of 1992, Bush's approval rating had plummeted to 37%, all because of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
So the economy is a huge driver. But I do believe that if Trump would stay off Twitter and be more disciplined and just shut up, he'd be doing much better than he is.
I think that is a very logical approach. 257-5396. We're joined by Michael Avenatti. Let's get back to the phone calls. And let's go to Al. Al, you're on with Michael. Go ahead.
Hey, Al.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Question for all of you. Do you think Joe Biden were to be elected, that he would be impeached based on his admissions and what he did trying to get this prosecutor fired and he held up a...
Well, Michael is a supporter of Joe Biden, so let's let Michael answer that. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, I don't think he would be impeached, and I don't think he should be impeached because, first of all, Joe Biden did not attempt to have the prosecutor removed because he was looking at Joe Biden's son. That is an absolute fallacy. Joe Biden and many Western leaders of many countries wanted the prosecutor removed because he was not doing enough to ferret out and investigate corruption, and because it was widely believed that the prosecutor himself was corrupt. That is the reason why they wanted the prosecutor removed, and Joe Biden was not alone in that regard. But let me just say this. If Joe Biden is elected president of the United States, and if there's evidence that Joe Biden committed crimes or abused the office of the presidency or sought to leverage a foreign leader for his own personal benefit while he was president of the United States, then I would support an impeachment inquiry.
All right, fair enough. Michael Avenatti joining us on the line, 257-5396, the number to call. Why don't we go to Carl? Carl, you're next on the Vegas Take. Go ahead. You're on with Michael.
Yeah, hi, guys. And Michael, some of your callers, I'll tell you, I wish I was back in practice. I could have a big practice. They need help, some of them. But anyway, let me ask Michael this. He just said if Trump got off of Twitter and whatever, let me say he just said on a press conference yesterday, one of his helicopter conferences, let me ask what he thinks of this. He said that, he didn't inform anybody on the raid on the terrorists, but he did talk to Putin and the head of Erdogan about but he didn't say anything to anybody in Congress, nothing to any of our security services.
Yeah.
And then you know what he said? He said, "Well, Putin's a good man." Well, I think you know where his sympathies lie now.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely. I think he's anti-American, to be honest with you.
Well, Carl,
go
ahead, Carl. What did you want to ask Michael?
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to ask Michael what he thinks about
Sure.
this, because every dictator he calls, I haven't seen one that he hasn't called a good man.
That's true, Carl. That's a good point. Let's let Michael respond to that, Carl. And by the way, Carl, I want to add this, Michael. The president did not even notify Nancy Pelosi, many members of Congress, when it came to this raid of this ISIS leader. And a lot of people are saying, well, that's blatant disrespect towards Pelosi and many others. Michael, what do you make of Carl's comments?
Well, I agree with a number of Carl's comments. I mean, I think that, this is a guy who has shown an affinity for dictators around the world, and his favorite, most beloved dictator is Vladimir Putin. I mean, he's a big fan of Putin. He is
literally stood shoulder to shoulder with Putin beginning in Helsinki over a year ago. And look, there's something there. There is something that Putin has on Trump. It's just that simple. I don't know what it is. I don't know how important it is, but there is some leverage because you cannot otherwise explain this absolute affinity and the way that Trump engages in just kowtowing to Vladimir Putin. It doesn't make any sense. And to my friends on the right, I ask you this. If Ronald Reagan were alive today, what would he say about this? I mean, Ronald Reagan is turning over in his grave when he sees the way that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, behaves around Vladimir Putin. I thought the fact that Trump did not notify Nancy Pelosi and others, I thought it was an absolute disgrace. It has nothing to do with his concern about leaks. It has everything to do with his concern, or basically his belief that he wants to stick it to Nancy Pelosi and Schumer and the Democrats. He doesn't want to show them any respect, because he's upset about what they're doing relating to the impeachment inquiry. So his attitude is basically, you know what, screw them. I'm not going to tell them anything that I don't absolutely have to. I mean, that's the attitude. I mean, he's like a petulant child in a lot of ways.
You know, I think that there's something. I think the Trump brand is probably making some type of money in Russia. You made up a good point last segment. You said that there's still 13 months until the election, which is very true. After Trump was vehemently booed in Washington, D.C. at the Nationals game, if you watch that video, he's smiling, he's very happy, and then he hears the boos and his face changes. I believe that he is going to kind of take his foot off the gas because he knows that it's not helping. His Twitter rhetoric is not helping at all. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, let's let Michael comment on that, but I want to play you a little bit of the audio. We have it. This is the president last night being booed at the World Series. Go ahead, Johnny. Play it. There you go. That is a very large contingent of baseball fans at the World Series screaming, "Lock him up." I was a little surprised to hear everybody joining in on that one. So, Michael, what do you make of JD's comment and question there?
Well, you know, isn't it strange the reaction to the President of the United States when he's no longer at one of his rallies in Mississippi or Alabama or Kansas, right? Isn't it amazing what happens when you're not at one of these MAGA rallies? You know, something tells me that we've seen the last appearance of the President of the United States at a baseball or a large sporting event. He wants a controlled environment where everybody adores him and buys into his BS. Look, I don't think he's going to take his foot off the gas. I think he's going to do what he's always done. He's going to double down. He's going to increase the rhetoric. He's going to lash out more. He's going to continue on Twitter because he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room and that he knows better, and that his instincts are better than everyone else's. I think that we're going to just see more conduct, more of the same.
Yeah, JD, to your point, and Michael, I think you'd agree with this. He's not going to take his foot off the gas. This is going to be much like the whole Seth Meyers moment at the Correspondents' Dinner, right, where he was making fun of him, and he almost used it as motivation to get him even more fired up as he gets ready for the 2020 election, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think he's going to, he's always had a chip on his shoulder, even long before politics. Back when he was a developer in New York, he wasn't, accepted into the elite. The elite of the city, if you will, and he's always been upset about that. He's had a chip on his shoulder, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, I might add. But, at some point in time, you need to take that chip off your shoulder, especially if you're going to be president of the United States and start to actually govern. I'm going to go back to what I said, guys. I'm going to tell you, if this guy would have deleted his Twitter account and if he would have actually ascended to the office of the presidency and acted the part, he would be he'd be untouchable as it relates to 2020. He really would. Mm-hmm. He'd be out of touch in light of the economy.
I agree.
Thankfully he has not done that, and he is his own worst enemy. Again, the one thing this guy has to do, shut up, he is incapable of doing.
I tend to agree with you on that one. Michael, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it. And I have an idea that we probably will have more news to discuss with you a week from today when it comes to Donald Trump. Michael, always appreciate your time. Thank you so much. We'll catch up with you next week.
Let me say one last thing,
Sure,
guys.
sure.
There's too many Democrats in the race. A number of these Democrats need to get out of the race. They have no shot at the nomination and beating Donald Trump. They are collecting millions of dollars for their own fool's errands to travel around the country to stroke their ego. They need to get serious. They need to put the party above their egos, and they need to get the hell out of the race because they're taking up a lot of money that could otherwise be spent towards the common good.
I agree, and Tulsi Gabbard is a perfect example of that. She thinks the race is between her and Hillary Clinton, who has not even entered the race. So some of these candidates are delusional. I agree with you, Michael, 150%. Michael, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, my man.
Have a great week, guys.
All right.
Yeah,
there you
thanks
go.
a lot, Michael.
Attorney Michael Avenatti joining us. We appreciate that. We'll take more of your phone calls coming up on the other side at 257-5396. Take a quick break. Be back right after this.